Hey Vegeta, look! More butt people. Hey guys, MasakoX here. We round off What If Week for January with me in Comic-Con in Alabama and you watching part 3 of What If Nappa Turned Good. Today, we're going to be continuing a story that I really did not expect to gain traction, and it's basically just another minion of Vegeta's suddenly turning good. And for some reason that really goes down well with you lot. But that's okay, because I'm more than willing to oblige. Unlike the Raditz interpretation, I believe that the Nappa interpretation is a lot more bolder in its scope. We're actually doing something a little bit more different than we expected, and taking some risks. Doing things that even I didn't think we would do going into this. And the biggest differentiation is the fact that we're not using the future Trunks hook like we usually do in these what ifs, so what happened in the future is entirely different. And all of this thanks to some banter from Lanny Pator and Grant over at Team 4 Star, so cheers guys! So in the last part we had future Nappa come from the future to save the day and then let Goku survive so he could recover. Dr. Gero also got to meet his creation Cell, albeit in not the best circumstances given the fact that, you know, he died. But the biggest revelation is that since Piccolo's no longer around, he's currently in the body of Nail on New Namek, we now have to find a new strong Namekian guardian, and we got that with Kami. He used the Dragon Balls to make himself young, and he headed off into the Room of Spirit and Time in order to get stronger and actually become the guardian of Earth that the people of the planet deserve. Pretty bold stuff there, so let's not waste any more time and get straight into it. Once Goku's been actually transported to Kame House, Bulma discovers another time machine lurking in the undergrowth and decides to go and investigate it, much like in the original. She brings this all up to future Nappa's attention, and he is naturally curious. So he, Gohan and Krillin, as well as Bulma, decide to go and figure it out. And when they get there, they discover all is not well. Something huge has broken out of the time machine, and they do not like what they see. Thanks to the skills of Detective Gohan, they then discover the body and exoskeleton of a larval state Cell. And it's really, really big and really oozy and scary. Oh. They are truly terrified at the size of this thing and what it could be, and the fact that it's out there somewhere, just waiting to drink people. Kami exits the Room of Spirit and Time, feeling a lot more stronger than he was when he went in. He now feels he is ready to be able to help the people down on Earth. Mr. Popo can barely recognize this Namekian, and he is so proud of him and how strong he's become, and he's gonna do the people of Earth proud. Kami gives Mr. Popo a small smile before focusing on the job in hand. And that job is to go and find the beast that's causing so much terror on the surface and put an end to it. Now. He heads down to the planet's surface, somewhere near Ginger Town, where the most of this action is happening, and begins his investigation. But the only thing that he finds here is Cell. A much weaker Cell than he was expecting, and he's kind of curious about that. What happened to him? What we know is that the reason why Cell is so weak is because he was injured thanks to the actions of 16 going completely wild at Jiro's lab and burying him under tons and tons of rubble. That took a while to get out, and a lot of his strength has been drained. He's got to go and try and drink more people. The creature then explains his nature in a similar way as to he did with Piccolo in the original story, just being even creepier about it. Because I am really nettled, Kami. Now all buoyed up, he then just feels like he may as well just go and fight Kami. In this version of the story, Imperfect Cell is bigger, larger, more terrifying and brutal, and just more aggressive. He's less calculating than his original counterpart, and is much more desperate in his approach. As a result though, this turns out to be his undoing, and Kami beats him thanks to all of his experience. Cell has no choice but to retreat for now. Kami then meets up with Gohan, Krillin and the two Nappas, with Gohan mistaking Kami for Piccolo. After a period of slight confusion, Kami then explains what he managed to find out thanks to his encounter with Cell. He then says that they should go on and try and find the cyborgs while he himself goes to try and defeat Cell, because that's what he's meant to do as the guardian of Earth, save the people. The four of them then decide to retreat back to Kami House to regroup, and not a moment too soon. Remember the cyborgs? They were going on that little joyride thing? Well, they're kind of bored, so hey, what about that directive they were thinking about? You know, do a good old-fashioned murdering Son Goku? Yeah, let's go do that. But unlike the original story, 18 chooses not to fight, and instead, the two Nappas decide to take on 16 and 17. Krillin then tries to approach 18, asking her some questions about why is she doing all this, why is she a cyborg, what happened to her. She reluctantly answers some of his questions and actually appreciates his boldness. Meanwhile, the situation isn't looking so good for the Nappa brothers. They then quickly decide to focus on the double team tactics that they developed with Goku. Maybe these cyborgs are better than them in terms of strength, but they gotta work together and try and focus their efforts into actually taking them out one at a time. That might work. There is a turning point when future Nappa is able to injure 16, landing a powerful punch to the head. As that fight continues, Kami continues to stalk Cell from a distance. After a while of observing the creature though, Kami is terrified as to noting what Cell is exactly doing. He is slowly heading towards Kami House and getting ever closer to his desired perfection. While 16 and 17 are fighting the two Nappas, Cell lands a surprise attack against 18 and Krillin. They weren't seeing that coming. Thanks to this surprise attack, she is overwhelmed, and we then see a semi-perfect Cell, which is different to what we originally know. When 17 notices the energy of 18 suddenly disappearing and changing, he turns around and is terrified to what he is seeing. The two Nappas and two androids then realize that they gotta deal with semi-perfect Cell, so a temporary truce must be called to proceedings. This Cell is different, cooler, much more collected than the original semi-perfect Cell. Needless to say, he is able to hold his ground against the two androids and the two Nappas. After throwing them around a little bit, Kami also comes in to help them. Seeing that they cannot win this fight, 16 and 17 then just decide to retreat. All of this leaving the two Nappas and Kami to take on semi-perfect Cell, and yeah, that's not gonna work out. It's pretty obvious that this monster is not happy about the about face that 17 and 16 have done, and instead chooses to end the fight by winding everyone else and then going after the cyborgs. Once Kami's caught his breath, he tells the two Nappas exactly what they need to do. Go into the Room of Spirit and Time and train like you've never trained before. "Can me and Gohan join in too?" says a familiar voice. It turns out that the heart medication worked faster than expected and Goku's up and about, albeit not at his full strength. They all decide that the two Nappas will go in first and Goku and Gohan will go in the next day once Goku has had some more time to recover. Meanwhile, Kami is busy to try and think of a plan in order to distract semi-perfect Cell from getting 16 and 17. And all of this running away is getting more and more annoying for the Bugman. By the next day, the two Nappas exit the chamber, now stronger than ever, and much more in harmony with each other. But having said that though, they are glad to get out there and tired of their company. And remember, this is back in the day when the Room of Spirit and Time was an arduous task, something not to be taken lightly. It's not just a convenience tool like it is in the days of Super. Thank you, Dende, thanks a lot. Goku and Gohan then enter the chamber themselves, with the now powered up Nappas deciding to take on the Bugman and teach him a lesson. "Hey Cell, we're gonna take you to school." Down on Earth, semi-perfect Cell manages to find 16 and 17. He dispatches of 16 and is about to absorb 17 when the Nappa brothers show up. They may not be as strong as Super Vegeta, but they're still able to wreck Cell pretty substantially, enough for 16 and 17 to have a chance to try and escape. Semi-perfect Cell recognizes their power, but unlike the bullish and brutish semi-perfect Cell of 17, this Cell, with 18's absorption, actually senses that he's got to keep his eye on the prize. He decides to play some mind games against Nappa because he sensed that these two aren't exactly the smartest of the Z fighters. So, why not do something really fun and really exciting while he goes off and tries to absorb 17? Pit the two against each other, because that's what happened before. He then tells future Nappa then, "Why are you protecting the being that destroyed your master and protector, Gohan?" Because remember, 17 did that in the future? And future Nappa then goes, "Huh, that's a really good point. I am confused!" He then turns his gaze to 17 and realizes that this is all true. The only thing that present Nappa can do right now is to try and stop future Nappa from distracting himself and going away from Cell. Present Nappa is constantly trying to tell future Nappa that Master Kakarot can teach them the error of their ways and that 17 can have a second chance. It can all work out. It doesn't have to be this way. The roles have been reversed somewhat. It's present Nappa being the more rational one. And that's a bit of a dramatic twist in a way. Cell manages to absorb 17 and he has finally reached perfection. He immediately then turns his gaze back to the two Nappas and is about to finish them off, but witnesses them wrestling each other. And this gives the Cell creature an idea. Something that he can have a bit of fun with. So he decides to leave the two Nappas fighting each other and then goes after Kami. He proceeds to wreck Kami pretty badly, taking his limp body to a nearby television station. You know who this is? This is your god. Your god is dead. Long live your new god. He then announces to the world the Cell Games, but unlike in the original story of it just being like a regular tournament, this time it's a battle royale style wrestling match with the last one standing being the ultimate winner. The Nappas are then taken back to Capsule Corporation, so that means they can recover, whilst Goku and Gohan are finishing up their training in the Room of Spirit and Time. Once they've exited, they then think they're about ready to fight Cell, and then realize that he's gotten much stronger. Oh dear. With that, Bulma and Yamcha are then tasked to head out to New Namek to gather the Namekian Dragon Balls to be ready for later. And all of this is thanks to a capsule that Nappa managed to help them repair a while back. They've been able to recover the body of 16, and Dr. Briefs repairs him, getting him into a much more peaceful state and actually on their side. Once 16 is now functional, he then begins to reconcile with future Nappa, and the two realise they actually have a lot in common. You know, in terms of losing people, something that they held dear, and for now, they actually call a proper truce. Everyone else trains then ready in time for the Battle Royale. The Cell Games are approaching. Like in the original, Mr. Satan attempts to join in the fray, but this being a battle royale, the gang gather together and dismiss him from the field because he's just going to be a waste of space and he's just going to get himself killed. Goku then uses King Kai to communicate with Bulma and Yamcha, who are currently on New Namek, almost done with collecting the Dragon Balls. Goku then requests that they keep one of the wishes saved for later. Mr. Satan is just watching from the sidelines, absolutely terrified, seeing the likes of every single Z fighter going against Perfect Cell and then not being able to do anything. After a while though, things begin to come to a head when 16 tries to blow himself up, but completely gets disintegrated thanks to Perfect Cell. We then get the scene between him, Gohan and Cell. Gohan goes Super Saiyan 2, he gets an uppercut against Cell, which is enough to make him regurgitate 17, and he reverts back to his semi-perfect state. Now in a desperation tactic, Cell then threatens to blow everybody up. But this is where the wish that Goku saved for later comes into effect. Goku uses the wish that he held back to then transport him and Cell to a location away from anybody, and that means they're all safe. Because remember, in this what if, Goku doesn't know instant transmission. Before anyone else can object though, Nail and Dende make the wish, and Cell and Goku are transported away. Cell then explodes, taking Goku with him, but sadly, much like in the original, Cell is able to then transport himself back to Earth. He attempts to shoot Gohan with a death beam because, you know, revenge, but future Nappa gets in the way, doing his bodyguard duties. Present Nappa and Gohan then work together in unison to try and take on Perfect Cell, and then ultimately they are able to succeed because they work together, and yes, this is the first time, despite his objections, that Nappa decides to use the Kamehameha. Cell is shocked, but not for long, because he is wiped out. Once everything is settled down, Kami is wished back from the dead, and Goku decides to stay in the other world like in the original. All is well, including the relationship between Krillin and 18, which gets off to a slower start than in the original story, but it still develops at the end. 17 is also revived, but unlike the original story, he decides to stick around and just chill out with the guys, because why not? In fact, he ends up becoming buddies with Nappa. And of course, Mr. Satan still takes credit for the victory, but this causes a permanent grudge between himself and Nappa, and I'm sure that's going to come to a head in the next part. Now, I have a question for you guys. What about future Nappa? What happens to him? Well, in his future, there really isn't much left for him alongside trying to fix the future along with Bulma. But on the other hand, he could join the Z Warriors and actually partner up with his present self, given the fact that his present form has now actually surpassed him in terms of strength. Check out the poll on the top right and cast your vote, as well as leave a comment about what you think might happen, and I will take that into consideration for the next chapter. Thank you. The future of future Nappa is in your hands. So what do you guys think? Did you like this bold take of events? Do you think it worked well? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you later.